Not everyone has the opportunity to experience a near-death experience before they die. Anita Moorjani shared her near-death experience and how it changed her life values. Anita is Indian, grew up in Hong Kong, and received a British education. For example, in terms of religion, her parents would take her to Hindu temples, while her nanny took her to Buddhist temples, and she learned about different religions at school. This diverse environment shaped her character to avoid conflict and be very introverted, but deep down she longed for freedom. At that time, Indian culture dictated that women should obey their fathers and live with their parents until they got married and became their husband's responsibility. She spent the first half of her life feeling deeply guilty for running away 3 days before an arranged marriage. Around 2000, 2 close friends of Anita were diagnosed with cancer, which instilled a fear of cancer in her, prompting her to make cancer prevention her mission. Moreover, numerous drug advertisements and magazines were telling people that 1/3 of people would get cancer, that microwaves cause cancer, and using plastic containers would cause cancer. This plunged Anita into a deep fear of cancer. She began eating only organic food, consuming large amounts of antioxidants, and taking anti-cancer supplements, living in constant fear of cancer, until she was diagnosed with lymphoma in 2002. Stage 2B meant it had already spread. At that time, 2 close friends were receiving Western treatments at the world's best hospitals, but their health was deteriorating. So, Anita decided not to undergo Western treatments. She returned to India, immersing herself in an environment with a very different attitude toward cancer. There, yoga, Ayurveda, and other practices viewed cancer not as a disease, but as a state of imbalance in the body that needed to be explored and corrected. Anita began doing yoga daily and adjusted her diet to include a wider range of foods according to Ayurveda, consuming cooked vegetables, rice, and dairy. After 6 months, her body showed significant improvement. The lumps on her lymph nodes began to shrink and soften. She decided to return to Hong Kong. Upon returning to Hong Kong, the impending deaths of her 2 close friends brought back her fear of cancer. The Hong Kong community at the time was very skeptical of anything not mainstream medicine, so she felt that everything she experienced in India was stripped away when she returned to this environment. People around her questioned her treatment plan and urged her to see a doctor. The deaths of her 2 friends were the last straw. Anita went to the hospital for a full checkup, and the doctors said it was too late, the lymphoma had spread. Anita says she is always very cautious when describing her experience. She states that we are all trying to find the right language to explain, and she doesn't want to mislead anyone, so sometimes you need to listen to several different people's opinions to piece it together. She believes that cultural suppression of her true desires and curiosity, combined with the fear of death, cancer, and disease, led to her illness. Most of us deal with some repressed issues due to childhood or cultural circumstances, which may cause anxiety, or even develop fatal diseases in the future. Most people don't even realize the importance of discovering their true selves. You have a purpose, a mission, a reason, an intention. Your soul chose to come into this life in this body, to be born into this family, in this culture, for a reason. Your only job is to find that reason, in other words, to discover your soul's intention, even if you find yourself trapped. This seems to address what free will is and what destiny is. For Anita, destiny is not fixed. Following your destiny means following your soul's intention. What is our soul planning to achieve, accomplish, or do here? How does our soul plan to change the world and provide service, etc.? You come with this intention. But when we are here, it is sometimes difficult to get involved, using our limited language to express things that are hard to articulate. In her case, she had forgotten, completely suppressing her identity, to the point where her soul fought back, by giving her symptoms and awakening her within her body. This is not your purpose here. You are not here to be a pushover. You are not here to succumb to all these fears. You are not here to please others. you are much more powerful than that. But in reality, she was suppressing it, fighting it, for example, saying I can't disappoint my father, can't let down my culture. So, she went against her soul's intention. Intention is what she calls destiny. We have the choice of whether to follow this intention, and this is our free will. We always thought we were victims of disease. But Anita believes that disease is not a physical issue, it goes far beyond that. It is a spiritual issue, an emotional issue, a problem of self-suppression. If you really want to heal, you must consider all these factors. This is an important reflection, because many people can do everything right, eat all organic foods, get sunshine, but if your actions are coming from a place of resistance, based on fear, then all these psychological and emotional dynamics will affect our bodies. Anita believes that both are right, eating healthy foods and doing things that are beneficial to your system. But act out of love for yourself, and this is where the difference lies. We should eat healthy foods, but out of love for ourselves. If you don't love yourself, you don't love your life, you hate what you are doing, then even eating healthy foods won't benefit you. If you love yourself, you love your life, you will want to eat healthy foods, because you want to live long, you want to stay healthy to continue doing what you love. Back in 2006, after 4 years of battling cancer, Anita's tumors had grown to the size of golf balls, extending from the base of her skull to her neck, in her armpits, below her chest, and into her abdomen. Her body had stopped absorbing nutrients, and she weighed only about 85 pounds, very weak, unable to walk, and even when sitting, she lacked the strength to lift her head, which was always drooping. Her lungs would fill with fluid, and when she lay down, she would choke on it. Every 3 to 4 weeks, the fluid had to be drained from her lungs, and she had open skin ulcers that nurses constantly cleaned and disinfected. On February 2nd, she fell into a coma. Her family was told by doctors that she had at most 24 hours to live. Her husband and mother were at the hospital, and her brother rushed back from India to see her. Anita described leaving her body at that time, feeling light and free, surrounded by something she called unconditional love. Despite her comatose body, she could see and hear everything around her without using physical eyes and ears, something more powerful, like having 360-degree peripheral vision without needing to turn her head. It was pure awareness without any limitations, seeing her brother on the plane and realizing other presences were there to help her through the process. She saw her father, who had died 10 years ago, and other deceased loved ones and friends who had died of cancer. Anita described this state as not having a physical body, no vocal cords, no eyes, but a very different type of perception, pure awareness. Her father didn't need to speak. She knew what he wanted her to know. It was like energy entangling, and she sensed everything. When she said she saw her father and loved ones, it was not with her eyes, but more like her consciousness could imagine who they were, receiving the image of her father as she knew him in life. She realized that when people die, our gender, race, culture, religion, and accumulated beliefs stay with the physical body. She understood that only our pure essence transcends, which she referred to as pure love, pure God, pure source energy, or pure consciousness. We can call it anything, but it is our pure essence. Anita described the space she was in, saying that when she focused on her husband Danny in this life, she could see other lives they had shared together, potential futures, and the future of this life. She saw that she and Danny had a lot of work to do, which had not yet been achieved. If she chose not to return to physical life, Danny's mission in this life would also be incomplete, and he would die within 6 months. When she focused on her brother in this life, she saw other lifetimes with him, where she was much older than him, and the whole space was filled with other times and places encountered with this person. It was very abstract and profound, like a holographic deck, as if she were in virtual reality. This made Anita realize that time on the other side is not linear. She could access the future, the past, and any life relevant to her experiences here. In the first half of Anita's life, She was a people pleaser, always taught to serve others and be obedient. She felt deep shame for running away from her arranged marriage, thinking she had brought disgrace to her family and her fiancé's family. Some even told her that her cancer was due to her karma that needed to be cleared. Being already a doormat, she was told she needed to do more to be more pleasing, more of a doormat, a charitable martyr. It was as if she needed to bow down, allowing anyone to walk over her, or else her bad karma would contribute to incurable cancer. She always thought she had disappointed her father and done many terrible things, expecting judgment after death. She believed karma was straightforward, doing bad deeds meant paying the price. But when she was in a coma and met her father, there was only unconditional love. She realized she should fully express herself rather than suppress herself. Constantly striving to be better implies a belief that we are fundamentally not good, flawed. What we need to know is that our soul is amazing, a facet of God. Each of us is a facet of God, love, or pure consciousness expressing through this body. When we do bad things, it's because we have lost our way and cannot see our true selves. Anita had been suppressing herself due to cultural and social constraints, and her body was reminding her, this is not you. The body was fighting back, the soul was fighting back. She realized, oh my God, I am much more powerful than I thought. I am an expression of God. Regarding karma, Anita felt it was not as we imagined. On that virtual deck, reviewing her life, she could see each journey of her lives and how this life contributed to the journey of the entire soul. For example, if you did something terrible to someone, you learned a lesson and thought, I really shouldn't have done that. If I had another chance, I would do it differently. And you get the chance to do it differently, rather than having someone do the same to you. So, karma is not that simple. Due to her experience of running away from marriage when she was young, Anita always felt she had brought shame to both families, and would pay for it in the next life. She lived with this guilt for a long time, but during her coma, she realized she had suffered enough and carried too many burdens in this life. She wouldn't pay for it in the next life. In fact, this experience had a positive side. It inspired young Indian women to say no before falling into such situations. She believed our traditional belief is that we fear the afterlife and often act out of this fear, but in reality, the afterlife is very compassionate. She felt the guides, or what you call source energy, greatly admired her, like a grand welcoming ceremony, everyone telling her, you've been through a tough journey, describing it in human limited vocabulary as a feeling of coming home, like attending a welcome home party. Most of us live as if there is only one possibility, the one we've been indoctrinated with. When that possibility doesn't work for us, we become traumatized, depressed, anxious, and lose ourselves. What truly matters is experiencing the vastness of our own consciousness in countless ways. Not everyone will have a near-death experience, but when you experience the expansiveness of consciousness, it doesn't shrink back to its former state. It will always be with you. In that space, Anita understood why she got sick, realizing how every choice and decision in her life led to it. Then she was given the choice to return to her body. At first, she didn't want to return, but her father conveyed the message, now that you know everything, why you got cancer, you need to go back and live fearlessly, your body will recover quickly. Then she woke up from the coma. Her family was very relieved, and the doctors were completely unable to explain it, being very cautious, as they didn't know what to write in the case file. But Anita was very firm in telling her family, I'll be fine, I'll recover. Dad is here, Dad said my time isn't up. In the next 5 days, the tumors in her body shrank by 70%. The doctors began to suspect a misdiagnosis, which was impossible since the tumors had been as large as golf balls. But Anita knew exactly what had happened, from why she got cancer to why she was now healing. 5 weeks later, Anita was discharged and went home. The cancer was completely gone. From then on, Anita had to start her life anew, and as you can imagine, her life felt completely different. Her perspective on the world changed. She found it hard to reintegrate into life. She wanted to share her experience and insights, not realizing people wouldn't accept it. People began to persuade her, "You are lucky, but don't give people false hope. Don't lead them away from what they are doing." So Anita started to close herself off, but her past experience told her not to suppress herself as before. This information had to be shared. In 2006, when her brother found a near-death experience research foundation website and told her, she immediately checked it out and found about 3,000 near-death experiences. She realized she was not alone, so she shared her story on the website. Within 24 hours, she received an email from the site's founder, Dr. Jeffrey Long, who happened to be an oncologist. He contacted Anita, wanting to see her medical records. Dr. Long wanted to feature Anita's story on the website's homepage. With her permission, he did not use her full name. This attracted the attention of people interested in the phenomenon. Meanwhile, Anita was still living in Hong Kong, starting a freelance job unrelated to near-death experiences. She didn't tell people around her about the story. Then another Chinese-American oncologist from California contacted her, asking if he could see her medical records at the Hong Kong hospital. When they met and reviewed the medical records, he said, "No matter how I look at it, from these records, you should be dead. You should write a book about all this. I will provide medical proof to verify it." Medical conferences were then held to validate everything Anita said. Then Wayne Dyer discovered the story, and everything changed, attracting global attention. She could think of an analogy to explain the near-death experience. Imagine being in a completely dark warehouse, where you can't see anything, but imagine having a small flashlight in your hand. When you turn on the flashlight to navigate in the dark, the beam of light helps you navigate the darkness. What you see is what the beam illuminates, everything else is in the dark. Now imagine one day a large spotlight turns on, and everything in the warehouse lights up. You realize the warehouse is huge, much larger than you imagined. It is filled with shelves, and on the shelves are all sorts of things you could and couldn't imagine. Colors fill the entire warehouse, some colors you never imagined. Some you've seen before with the flashlight, but many you haven't because your flashlight never shone on them. Imagine if the light goes out again, and you're back to that small flashlight. Even though you can only see what the flashlight shows, at least you know there's more out there. You know now, just because you can't see it and experience it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Because you've had that experience, you now know. This is how Anita felt. She felt there was much more to existence than we believe, much more than we experience, just outside the beam of the flashlight. Anita described that beam as our consciousness, and when you shine your consciousness on something, it becomes your reality, becomes what you experience. Anita said she learned 5 lessons from this experience. First, the most important thing we need to focus on here is love. When we talk about love, we often say we need to love others. But Anita felt that one of the reasons she got cancer was because she didn't love herself. This is very important. When we love ourselves, we value ourselves, and when we value ourselves, we teach others how to treat us. When you love yourself, you'll find there's no need to control or bully others. Nor will you allow others to control or bully you. So, loving yourself is as important as loving others. The more you love yourself, the more you have to give to others. Second, live fearlessly. Most of us grow up in fear. We are taught to be afraid of everything. Anita used to be afraid of everything, afraid of cancer, afraid of eating the wrong food, afraid of displeasing others, afraid of failing. And most of us grow up fearing everything. People think fear keeps you safe, but this is not true. Love actually keeps you safe. When you love yourself and others, you ensure your safety and keep others away from danger. Love keeps you safer than fear. Third, humor, laughter, and joy are very important. We are born knowing these things. We are born knowing that laughing is important, because it's what children do all the time. We are born knowing love and living fearlessly. But as we grow, it gradually fades away. Laughter, humor, and finding joy in life are very important. It's more important than any other spiritual activity you can think of. Fourth, life is a gift, and most of us treat life as a chore. But this shouldn't be the case. Unfortunately, it's only when we lose what we value that we truly realize its worth. Anita realized the value of life only after losing it. She doesn't want others to make the same mistake, which is why she shares her story. Your life is a gift, even the challenges you face are gifts. Anita says having cancer was the biggest challenge she could face. But when she looks back, she sees it as the greatest gift she could have. She once thought cancer was killing her, but actually, she had been killing herself before she got cancer. And cancer saved her. All your challenges are gifts. In the end, you'll always find your challenges are gifts. If you're facing a challenge and it doesn't feel like a gift yet, it means you haven't reached the end. Fifth, the most important thing for you is to always be yourself. Shine your light as much as you can. Embrace your uniqueness. Just be aware of who you are, know who you are, love yourself unconditionally, and be yourself.